All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99. I'm back with another video. All right, y'all, shout out to WMMA Rankings. I just caught this article here. They did an article in this interview that Henry Cejudo had put together or conducted with Cris Cyborg. And first, I got to say shout out to WMMA Rankings because, I do a lot of research, of course, on WMMA, looking up different stuff and what's current. But sometimes I just jump straight to this website here because, they're always on it about what's going on. And they're covering anything pertaining to the women in combat sports. So, shout out to them. Got to give respect for anybody that's, covering the sport that, more people need to really get into and show us some love. But yeah, anyways, Henry Cejudo, he did a recent interview here with Cris Cyborg, and the conversation came up about GOAT status. I don't really talk GOAT status over here. I put that to rest a little while back, but I'll talk about it in the context of Cris Cyborg here and my thoughts on what she thinks, of course. But yeah, Henry Cejudo, he brought up the GOAT status deal with Cris Cyborg and talked about how Amanda Nunes is considered the GOAT. And, she just went into it and said that people counted her out after the one loss. They think that for one loss that knocks you off of that top spot, but she has the history. She's done a lot of work. She's one of those fighters that's gone undefeated for 14 years, and she believes that stands for something. She said Amanda Nunes has more losses than her. You can't discredit her off of one loss, because I guess Henry Cejudo was saying that she is considered the greatest female fighter of all time. And yeah, she's making that argument too, that Amanda can't really stake that claim, right? For me, though, well, let me read what she says here. I watched the whole interview. Y'all can watch it. He kind of went into the Cris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes fight after that, but this was the main statement that she made about it. Like, she didn't just bash Amanda, but this is what she was saying. She said, "You guys call Amanda Nunes the GOAT, but man, she has more losses than me. She stayed undefeated for 14 years. She said, okay, I lost the fight against Amanda. That happens. Sometimes it's just not your day. Sometimes that happens. But look how," she said, look at the history, how long. It's not just about one fight. Okay, she's saying, so she has the history, the 14 years of staying undefeated. It's not just about one fight, right? Okay. And for y'all that don't know, Amanda Nunes scored a first-round knockout over Cris Cyborg about, 4 years ago, right? Was it 2018, 2017 now? Man, time goes by. Anyways, yeah, that's the situation with that. And, Henry Cejudo went in to say, yeah, it kind of seems unfair that she was discredited and just kind of put down after that. And Amanda took that, took that title from her as the GOAT. Like I said, I think WMMA has a long way to go before we can really consider who is that legend, who is that greatest of all time. It's not like boxing. It's not like boxing, where boxing has centuries in the game, and you have this many standout fighters that really put a stamp on the game in the cage or in the boxing ring and out the boxing ring. That's why you can have that one or two legends in the game that just really stand out, because it has this vast history. And some of these fighters have gone through so many things and just the different eras they went in, that made the competition or their situation just tough. Like whether it was Jack Johnson, how could he rise up above all of this craziness that he was going on with the racism and, just the media downplaying him, that played a factor into his mental, and still perform at a high level, right? And then, of course, Muhammad Ali, the stuff he dealt with inside and outside the boxing ring, having to go to jail, then come back and still being able to evolve after losing his legs, right? In this situation, even now with Floyd Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather just turning the game around, no matter what people say, just turning the game around and becoming this defensive fighter. Whether people booed, he didn't care, making the right choices business-wise in this era. So there's an argument across the board for this GOAT status in boxing, but there's always that one man that did it, and that was Muhammad Ali. And we don't even look at his losses as, blemishes on that status of GOAT, of being the GOAT, because of what he's done and who he's faced. And I kind of think it's that way right now early on with Amanda. Like I said, nobody's a GOAT now. There's three candidates, of course, Valentina, Cris, and Amanda, but I don't take away from Amanda's status because of her losses. We got to look at the competition she was facing, and we got to look at how she's bounced back since then. And we got to look at how much of a level they were on at the time. You know what I mean? Like, she was different with Cris. Like, Cris went undefeated, in my opinion, because she was just always bigger and stronger than a lot of these girls. No disrespect to Cris, not saying she was fighting bums or anything like that. Definitely not saying that. But I haven't once picked against Cris up until the Amanda Nunes fight. And what does that tell you? You know what I mean? Like, going into the Tanya Evinger fight, going into the Yana Konaskaya fight, going into the Lena Landsberg fight, going into all the way up to present day with Sinead Kavanaugh. The way these fights were turning out, the way Cris turns up, I could never pick against her. You know what I mean? The way she trains and who she is, I could never pick against her in these fights. But see, with Amanda, there were still some competitive levels early on in her career. Whether she was fighting you got to go back to who she fought to, like Ediane Gomez, Kat Zingano, GDR. All those fighters she fought early in her career in Victor, they were tough fighters. You know what I mean? They just didn't have no home to go to, like the UFC at the time. For like those early fighters. So they were still on a high level. Those are the fighters that I was looking at Amanda evolve through and just say, this is going to be a tough one for her. This is competition. Sometimes she would lose, sometimes she would win. And I think that she evolved from that, once she realized her mistakes, got with the right people, got with the right training camp, and boom, she became a dominant fighter. She knew how to use that power. Her team knew how to exploit that power and how to put these fighters in their places, So, and she was doing that against competition I felt like was more on her level versus Cris. Cris was fighting a lot of girls at featherweight, this big weight, but some of these women weren't built for that. They couldn't even stand up to the punch of her. And then, I knew going into the fight they wouldn't be able to either. So that's telling you something. But see, at least with Amanda, Holly had a chance. Misha had a chance. Ronda had a chance because they were all bantamweights. They were all bantamweights, and, Amanda's just not built the same way. But I think that she fought more. Not saying Cris don't fight off technique and everything, but I think Amanda's had to fight more off of her skill set in a lot of her early fights and not just become so power dependent. And it kind of showed, it was evident. Even Henry Cejudo said when Amanda clocked her in that fight, she started fighting off emotion. And, Cris, in those mid-years, she would get brutal on these fighters. Sometimes technique was out the door because that's how strong and powerful she was. You got to admit that. And like I said, I'm not a fighter in there. I'm not an MMA fighter, but I said this before Henry Cejudo said. He said that whenever she got hit, she fought off emotion. And I picked Amanda to win in that fight. I picked Amanda to beat Cris Cyborg because I said, I think if Cris Cyborg gets hit or if Amanda Nunes makes her miss enough, she's going to get wild in there. She's going to get emotional, and Amanda's going to catch her. And that's how it played out. Once she tagged her, she got emotional in there and fought off emotion and got knocked out, right? So I kind of knew that was coming because, yeah, Cris works on a lot of things, her jiu-jitsu, her wrestling. She's putting all of this stuff together. She's really been working on her boxing lately, getting tighter with that. But if you go back and look at those fights throughout the UFC, like, let me pull up her resume right here. Like, some of the fighters I named, I didn't think they had a chance. Like, I like these fighters. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would have picked them over anybody else. You see they still could beat fighters on their level, like Lena Landsberg. She'll beat a Macy Chase on, and, she can give these other fighters work, even Tanya Evinger. But when it came down to Cris, that was just like a different thing. Like, I never really felt like they were on her level. Like, hold on. Let me pull this resume up here. Let's see. But let me know what y'all think as I do this video here for y'all in the comments section. Okay, so going back to even before the Amanda Nunes loss, like Yana Konaskaya, I knew she was going to win that fight. Tanya Evinger, knew she was going to win that fight. Lena Landsberg, Leslie Smith 2 times. I kind of knew those were the fights. Even like Charmaine Tweet, and I was picking Marlos Conan to win because, I'm a big fan of Marlos Conan, but even that fight, she was able to stop her just because, she was just so much more brutal than Amanda and just outgunned in this weight class with these girls. So in my opinion, they never stood a chance, but you see the one who did, that was able to go at least a number of rounds with her was Holly Holm. She did go the distance with her. That showed how tough she was, or how the tougher competition could even stand up to her punching power. You know what I mean? But hey, Amanda Nunes stops Holly Holm, right? But not basing it off of that. I just think that Amanda Nunes' resume is a little bit more competitive for her, and she's done more things, I think, just based off of the UFC, though, off the UFC. Cris, she's done more, I'd say over the whole spectrum. So that's where that argument could come in. She's a 4-organization world champion. She's been here from the jump. So that does stand for something in some people's arguments. That's why I say I don't do the GOAT talk. I mean, in my opinion, Amanda is in that GOAT talk. That's what I'm saying when I really, really get down to the point. Like, Cris has to understand that Amanda's going to be neck and neck with her. When it all comes down to it, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Amanda is the definitive GOAT, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that Cris has to understand it's going to be neck and neck here, because Amanda Nunes and what she's done, it stands for a lot. And what she's done with off of her technique and her evolution, it stands for something. Again, Cris, yeah, she's won these belts. She just dominated so much, but against what type of competition, though? What type of competition when you weigh it? Like I said, if you look at it, it's like the Vladimir Klitschko era versus the Muhammad Ali era, okay? Vladimir, he was just too big, too skilled for a lot of these fighters he was stopping, okay? They stood no chance. When Ali's era, he won some, he lost some, but you couldn't take away from the losses because the competition he was fighting, the Ken Nortons, the Leon Spinks, the Joe Frazier's that beat him, right? But he came back and beat those guys. Then the guys he just beat clearly, but were still tough competitions, Those guys like Cleveland Williams, George Foreman, Henry Cooper 2 times, those were some tough Oscar Bonavita, beat him to the body. I believe it was him. Or was it George Zavala? One of those guys. It might have been Bonavita, but he really dealt with some hard hitters, some fighters that were on his level. Like, if he was to get caught sleeping one day, he would have got slept. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I look at it. It's like those two eras. You got to kind of look at what the competition was like and just how much more overskilled they were for their opponents, if that makes sense. More so like Cris, she just was just too much for some of these girls, just too much for her. Where Amanda, she still had to dig deep even mentally to beat some of these girls, even like with Juliana Pena, you know what I mean? Like, you see Juliana Pena, you get caught sleeping, she'll sleep you. But when she woke up, she beat her, right? So that's what it came down to me. I just wanted to do a little discussion on GOAT talk. Cris Cyborg's GOAT talk, not mine. Just understand, like, I think for WMMA, this sport's going to have to go out another 10 or 20 years before we even have that talk. Like, if I still have this channel around when I get to be older, like in my 50s or 60s, if we still talking, then, of course we have to see who else is around. Then we'll really, really have that talk, like, oh, man, the great. Oh, no, Cris is, when I get to be that age, if I'm still, like I said, around and kicking with this channel, we'll discuss that for sure. But, yeah. As of right now, they are the top 3 candidates, but it is neck and neck, and Cris has to understand that it's not based off of her losing this many times and her being undefeated this many times. It's about the quality of opponents, and it's a combination of resume and skills. That's what it is. But yeah, guys, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Y'all can pick the GOAT now if y'all want. I'm not. These are just the top 3 candidates for now, but as the spectrum gets bigger and wider, hopefully over the years we have at least 10 more women to throw into that pot, like we do in boxing. You people like Joe Louis, some like Ali, some will say Jack, some will say Floyd of today, you know what I mean, as the TBE. So it's just one of those things, y'all. But yeah, I'm done with this little mini podcast here. I just wanted to discuss that one with y'all. I'll put the link for y'all if y'all want to watch the full Henry Cejudo interview in there. But yeah, shout out to Amanda, Cris, all of these fighters, for putting in the work. That's just me from the outside looking in. And that's just my opinion. It's no disrespect to any of the fighters. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. And make sure y'all subscribe to the show, here on YouTube and Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all of that. I'll be back with another one, of course. Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.